Jeff Kerr covers the NFL for CBS Sports. He's with me now on the Boardwalk Honda Hotline as we take a look at some NFC East stuff. The Eagles, I should say. OTAs continuing, Jeff. And I think one of the interesting emerging stories is the wide receiver core here. This Jalen Reagor saying he's going to be playing in the slot more. Do you think he's a better fit in the slot than he would be on the outside?
Yeah, Mike, I actually thought he should have been in the slot more last year. He played, I think it was 116, 117 snaps in the slot. It wasn't much of his total snap count. And I was kind of disappointed by that. And I knew the Eagles had Greg Ward, and Greg Ward's a nice player, but we got to be realistic here with this football team. Jalen Reagor was a better fit in the slot last year, but they had to put him on the outside because they didn't have anybody out there. They thought it was going to be him. They thought it was going to be Alshon Jeffrey. Alshon Jeffrey wasn't ready for the year, so they were asking him to do too much. They were asking Deshaun Jackson to do too much. They thought it was going to be him and Deshaun. That obviously didn't work because Deshaun Jackson got hurt again. Travis Fulgham came out of nowhere, but still Reagor was hurt at that time. So really Reagor was behind the eight ball from day one. Didn't really get any preseason games. Really the only thing we saw out of him the first 10 weeks of the year was that 55-yard catch and that one touchdown catch. And that's really it. And Jalen Reagor in the slot now, you got him, you got Devontae Smith on the outside. I don't know who the other outside receiver is going to be, but I think this immensely benefits his game.
Well, what about the people who then would say, hey, you didn't take Jefferson because you said he was a slot guy?
Yeah, well, that was a mistake. I mean, honestly, if you want to look back at it, it was a horrendous mistake. I mean, Justin Jefferson had a tremendous year last year. We have 1,400 yards. When you set the record for most receiving yards since the merger, that's going to happen. It's unfortunate for the Eagles, but look, you got Jalen Reagor now. I still think Jalen Reagor is a really talented player, but yeah, it does baffle my mind. Like, that's the reason why you didn't draft Justin Jefferson, because he was a slot guy. Well, you weren't bringing back Nelson Aguilar, so I don't understand, the brain trust.
What if Reagor comes in and has a really big year in the slot? I mean, is that justifiable then that they made this decision? Because a lot of the talk, Jeff, but a lot of the talk, would say, hey, they keep misevaluating these wide receivers. Let's say Reagor goes in the slot and has, 65 catches for 1,100 yards and 6 touchdowns.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, it justifies the draft pick. I mean, because you're Howie Roseman, you could say, see, we told you he could play. We just had to get him under the right coaching staff.
Right.
I think Nick Sirianni is going to make the most out of that. But, yeah, I'll take 65 catches for 1,100 yards and 6 touchdowns out Jalen Reagor. I'll take 65 catches for 855 yards and 6 touchdowns out Jalen Reagor. I think he's going to make an impact on this offense this year. And, really, I think his success is tied to the success of Jalen Hurts.
Yeah, now Reagor said he primarily in the slot. What does that mean for a guy like Greg Ward?
I think Greg Ward has a role on this team. I think it's more of a special teams role. I mean, you're going to need depth at wide receiver. I think Greg Ward's job is a little safer than J.J. Arcega-Whiteside's because you know what Greg Ward can provide for you. But I wouldn't expect Greg Ward to come in here and have 50 catches. I think Eagles fans are insane when they actually thought like he was going to provide like all that juice out of the slot last year. It just wasn't going to happen. Like, Greg Ward's a good player, but he's good for wide receiver depth, and let's just leave it at that.
Jeff Kerr, CBS Sports. Let's go over to Dallas here. Dak Prescott returned to practice this week. He has been out there. First time throwing, and what are we hearing about and seeing about how he kind of looks? I mean, everyone's just assuming he's going to come back and be the Dak. I'm a Dak guy. I don't think, I'm not like some Eagles guy who think he's saying, a good player is a good player. He's not a good player. He's a great player. But will he be the same player?
We should keep that young man away from Ben McAdoo, who coincidentally the Cowboys just hired because he's boys with Mike McCarthy, so he's back in the NFL. But I'll say this about Dak Prescott. I always thought he was a good player. I always like getting the Carson Wentz Dak Prescott debate for fun. And I actually thought Carson Wentz took the lead in that once and for all when he beat Dak Prescott in Week 16 of the 2019 season. That was a huge win for him and a huge win for the Eagles. But all jokes aside, Dak Prescott is a really good quarterback. He has stayed healthy for really for the first, 69 games of his career. So 69, 70 games. I mean, Dak Prescott has been an electric player, and he has been the reason why the Dallas Cowboys won the NFC East in 2017. In 2018, why the Cowboys have made 2 playoff appearances since his rookie year. If it wasn't for Dak Prescott, I don't think this team is as good as they are. Dak Prescott, to me at least, was the top 10 quarterback in the NFL from 2016 to 2020.
Oh, no question. Yeah, I look, he might have been the MVP of the league last year had he stayed healthy with the pace he was on. And that offense, on pace
for 6,000 yards last year.
Yeah. And that offense is, you wonder, DeMarco Murray, he had that monster year, came to Philly, and he just ran out of steam. You wonder when that year's going to hit Zeke Elliott.
It might already, because he got the contract. Last year, I didn't think Zeke had a good year. Zeke wasn't Zeke. He wasn't Zeke from 2016 to 2018. Really hasn't been. And Zeke's a big boy. Like, I think he can get his career turned around, but the Cowboys' offensive line isn't as good. They rely on Dak Prescott to throw the ball a lot more now. I used to say Ezekiel Elliott carried Dak Prescott. Now I think it's the other way around. I think Dak Prescott carries Ezekiel Elliott, and it puts a lot of strain on him. And they got to get Zeke back to the guy who averaged 4.6 and 4.8 yards per carry, not the guy who's averaging 4.1, 4.2. Dallas just gave him way too many carries from 2016 to 2018, and they're paying for it. And they made the mistake of paying Ezekiel Elliott because they thought he was the best chance to win the Super Bowl, when really Jerry Jones should have gave him the DeMarco Murray treatment and said, hey, thanks for playing.
Over to the Giants, Jeff Kerr, Kadarius Toney, he's going to kind of be like a Jalen Reagor because he got drafted in that first round. Now, it wasn't like was there? I guess was Bateman taken after Toney?
Bateman was taken 27 by the Ravens.
Right. So Toney's kind of like the Reagor. Like, hey, you had Bateman on the board. You took Toney. Right now it looks like they're going to use him all over the field. Like they're going to get him in different spots. So it's going to be jet sweeps, mini, screens, all that kind of stuff for Toney. He's going to be an interesting part of that Giant offense.
Yeah, and what I think helps Kadarius Toney is he has Kenny Golladay. He has Darius Slayton. He has Sterling Shepard. There are proven receivers on this Giants team. When Jalen Reagor was drafted by the Eagles, there wasn't. So, yeah, you can use him in end of rounds. You can use him on punt return. You can use him for deep plays, a lot of gadget-type plays, which is what I like the fit of Kadarius Toney, and you're not asking him to do too much with this football team. He's not coming in here to be the savior. That's Kenny Galladay's job. Darius Slayton is a good big play receiver. Sterling Shepard will be back. He'll be healthy. You have Saquon Barkley. You have Evan Ingram. This guy is more of, hey, you know what? Just be the fourth option. Develop this year. We're not asking you to have 50 catches for 700 yards and 10 touchdowns.
What do you make? Real quick, let's go to Washington and kind of check in on what's going on down there. I would imagine, I was reading the Pro Football Focus list of the running backs. I don't know did you check that out? Antonio Gibson rated higher than Miles Sanders. Miles Sanders 19 on the list. Antonio
was good last year, though.
He was. I had him on my fantasy team. Believe me, I know. But I think a lot of people kind of look at that. So does Washington build their offense around Gibson?
I think he's going to be an integral part of the offense. I think what Washington did ultimately was take the burden off him a bit because they were really relying on him the last 5-6 weeks of the season. And I don't want to say the kid got burned out because he didn't, but I think they gave him a lot more carries than he ultimately thought he was going to get. Remember, they had like a running back by committee there for a while, and they still have J.D. McKissick. Keep that in mind. He had like 70 catches last year. So he's going to be a big part of this offense as well. But now you got Curtis Samuel to go with Terry McLaurin. You got De'Ami Brown. Ryan Fitzpatrick's in there. It's not all let's rely on Antonio Gibson, who I don't want to say he faded down the stretch, but I think Washington definitely worked him a lot more than what they initially thought they were going to do. But he did break out in a big way for them. And look, he'll come in as the number one back, the feature back, no doubt about it. But I expect them to give J.D. McKissick the rock a little bit more too. But Antonio Gibson, to me, he's the guy you got to stop in this offense.
Saquon Barkley was number 7. Zeke Elliott was number 12. Gibson was 15, and Miles Sanders was 19. So I thought, Sanders was the lowest rated back in the NFC East. A little surprising, I guess.
I don't like how Saquon Barkley's 7. He's never on the field. I mean, we know how good he is, but, it isn't the best availability at this point, and he's just not available. And look, we all know what talent he is, and at the end of the year, 7 might be way under for Saquon Barkley, but I got to go to Miles Sanders here. Miles Sanders is a home run threat. He had 3 runs of 70-plus yards last year. He was third among all running backs in yards per carry. Like, what are you value? evaluating this on, like, PFF has a weird grading system to begin with. That's why I don't like them. They're like, oh, well, he dropped passes. Well, the year before he caught a lot of passes, and he was one of like a few running backs that have 500 receiving yards in his rookie year. He's almost like an Alvin Kamara type. I mean, I just don't get it. Like, are they going by pass protection? I don't know how they grade all these guys sometimes. I mean, if Miles Sanders is the worst running back in the NFC East, so be it. The NFC East has a lot of talented running backs, but I feel like this is a little unfair to Miles Sanders because he was better than Ezekiel Elliott last year. Let's be clear about that.
Jeff, give me your thoughts on this whole mess with Julio Jones and the fact that now the Falcons are complaining that they feel that this whole call with FS1 puts them at an unfair advantage because now teams know they want to trade them. This whole thing has turned into a disaster.
Oh, the NFL might be punishing Fox for this. Like, first off, I don't want to bash our network here because I work for CBS, but you couldn't tell Julio Jones that he was on speaker and we're on live television? That wasn't hard. Like, Joy Taylor tried to do it.
Well, right. Exactly. The whole point, because Florio said today that they tried to get the audio clip to get permission, which is a courtesy that you always say yes, but they said no. That kind of indicated that they know they're in some hot water by not telling him he was on live television.
Yeah, it's not like, look, I don't know Mike Florio's relationship with Fox, but because he works for NBC. But
yeah, but he said it's a courtesy. You ask for a clip, you get the clip. That's a common courtesy.
Well, yeah, exactly. So, yeah, they know they're in trouble then. Yeah, you're absolutely right, Mike. They know they're in some hot water for this. And it's unfortunate. Like, who knows what – really Julio Jones has the hand here because he can say, look, I knew I was live. They didn't have to tell me that. But as far as we know, he didn't. And I'm sure his agency is telling him, hey, look, you got to plead, innocence on this one here. You didn't know, and you're going to stick to that because that's going to ruin this whole trade thing. Like, I know teams have called the Falcons about Julio Jones. The Baltimore Ravens were one of those teams that called him about Julio Jones, and the Falcons kept playing, their poker hand saying, well, look, we're not really trying to trade him. Well, it turns out they are, which, again, this is what's mind-blowing, Mike. Why do you draft Kyle Pitts at number 4? You don't draft a quarterback. Isn't the point of drafting Kyle Pitts so you put him with Julio Jones, Calvin Ridley, and Hayden Hurst, and Russell Gage? Why are you doing what you're doing here?
Right. The NFL today announced a different cut-down process as well for 2021. Yeah, I was going to say, what's the impact here?
Well, for one, we don't have to work on Saturdays anymore, Mike. I can watch first Saturday college football in peace for the first time in about 7 years. So thank God the NFL did that. But, yeah, it's pretty much this is what it is, Mike. It's you go down to 85. I forget the exact. I think it's the 17th. You go down to 85.
17th.
Yeah, and then it's Tuesday, August 24th. You go to 80, and then you go down to 53 on Tuesday, August 31st, which is a full 12 days for the start of the regular season.
Which is a Tuesday.
Yeah. You know why they did this? Because they don't have a 4th preseason game anymore. They have all that time off. So teams probably know who's going to be on their roster anyway. So you get that extra time off. You get that extra week of practice. I'm all for it. You don't have 4 preseason games anymore. You have 3. You don't need that final waste of a cut-down day or a preseason game, which pretty much NFL teams know who they're keeping anyway. Like, remember in 2016, Paul Turner had the game of his life in 2016, and he still didn't make the Eagles.
Yeah, there are. So real quick, 3 different dates this year. Teams are required to trim down to 85 players by August 17th, 80 players on the 24th, and 53. They will get down to the final 53 on the final cut day, which is a Tuesday. So as you said, Jeff, the final cut down will not be on that traditional Saturday. It will be on a Tuesday. And right, because there's 3 preseason games this year, that changes the dynamic. So, and by the way, we just said August, what was the date? August
31st.
No, the first cut down date.
Oh, the first, that's the 17th.
August 17th, which means we are almost 2 months away, getting close to kickoff. We will continue the NFL, yes.
I'll tell you what, too, Mike. September 1st is going to be a big day, too, because that's going to be when practice squads are formed.
Practice squads are formed. Okay. Oh, September 1st. Yes. And June 1st will be Tuesday. So we are off Monday. We'll have to have you on Tuesday instead of Monday since we're off on Monday because June 1st is a big day on the NFL calendar. Jeff Kerr, CBS Sports. Now, We did not touch on Jeff's Eagles predictions. That's over at CBSSports.com at Jeff Kerr CBS. We will break that down a little bit more on Friday to kind of lead you into the weekend there. But you might be surprised at the record Jeff has for the Eagles game by game. Go check that out at Jeff Kerr CBS, and then we'll talk about that on Friday's edition. All right, man. Have a good rest of the enjoy the Sixer game. I see your Sixer gear there.
Oh, I got to represent tonight.
You going tonight?
Am I going? No, I'm not. I'm not going tonight. I sold game 2, but
were you in the building game 1?
Game 1 was awesome. I got a free upgrade for seats. I got to sit 15 rows behind the court. Also, Westbrook's mom is 2 rows in front of me. So fun time.
All right, Jeff Kerr, CBS Sports covers the NFL. Thanks, Jeff.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks, Mike.
And he, like all guests, appeared via the Boardwalk Honda hotline.